My son and I are about to start living a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. Once you get divorced, you won't be able to support yourself. If you want to know where we're going, you need to get on your knees and lick my shoes. What? What are you saying? I don't understand. I had no idea what my mother-in-law was talking about. I never knew they were planning to go abroad or that they had saved up so much money. It's because my son has $3 million. We're going to live a fancy life overseas, just the two of us. Why would my husband go abroad? And what's this about $3 million? Why do you want to know so badly? If you really want to know, kneel down, beg, and lick my shoes. Then maybe I'll tell you. Why are you acting like this? Where is my husband? Oh, we're very comfortable here. We're enjoying the high life with my son's $3 million, so you're no longer needed. I was shocked by my mother-in-law's words. What does she mean that my husband suddenly got $3 million and is living a luxurious life abroad? And why is she talking as if I'm an outsider? I was filled with anger and anxiety, but I needed to stay calm and figure out what was going on. How did my husband get such a huge amount of money? And could that $3 million be connected to something else? I work as a manager at a big IT company, and that's where I met my husband. His positive and cheerful personality drew me to him, and we eventually got married. In the early years of our marriage, his parents welcomed me warmly. Later on, we had a daughter who is now 14 years old. I grew up in poverty and had a difficult relationship with my parents. Because of my own challenging upbringing, I was determined to give my daughter all the love and care she deserved, while also balancing my career and household responsibilities. However, one day, my husband was assigned to a project in Texas and had to move there alone. It's going to be tough managing everything on my own with our daughter, I told him. Yeah, handling work, chores, and our daughter by yourself will be a lot. Maybe we should ask my mom to come and help out, he suggested. Reluctantly, I agreed, seeing it as a practical solution to our situation. So, we decided to have my mother-in-law move in with us to lend a hand. Mommy, when is Daddy coming back? My daughter asked one day. He's going to be in Texas for a while. But don't worry, Grandma's coming over, I reassured my daughter. And so, my mother-in-law moved in with us. Little did I know that this decision would become the biggest regret of my life. You're working late again today, huh? Women who neglect their families. I would often come home to her biting remarks. I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter. I would argue back, but she was never satisfied. When I was young, family meant everything. I never even thought about working outside the home, she would reminisce. Then, on the day my daughter received good grades at school, she remarked, "It's all thanks to me. What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around." Despite my mother-in-law only helping with simple homework tasks, I was the one teaching my daughter most subjects. Whenever I made a small mistake while cooking, she'd criticize, "How did you and my son survive before with such poor cooking skills?" "I'm doing my best and everyone has their own way," I'd retort, feeling my patience wearing thin. "She's not doing her chores," she'd complain to my husband. "Mom, she's working too. Please understand," my husband would defend me. Living together, tensions between my mother-in-law and me grew. With my husband far away, I felt increasingly isolated. One day, I decided to call my husband to talk about it. "How? Are you okay right now?" "Yeah, I'm good. What's up? It's kind of late." "Well, your mom really laid into me about the house chores, and it's starting to get to me." "I'm sorry. Mom's always been sharp-tongued, but maybe there's something to what she's saying. Still, don't let it bother you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace." Feeling somewhat reassured by my husband's words, I tried to refocus on our daily routine. But with my husband away, the pressure from my mother-in-law kept mounting, and I was becoming increasingly exhausted. Each day, I eagerly awaited my husband's return. Living with my mother-in-law in my husband's absence was tough. At first, I clung to his memory to get through, but as weeks passed, her behavior became unbearable. She criticized every little thing I did from morning till night. When I made my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes terrible. Who would eat this?" If I took a short break, she'd scold me, saying, "How can a woman who can't handle household chores take a break?" I never had much confidence in housework. With my husband, he would just laugh off my small mistakes. But in front of my mother-in-law, I felt like I couldn't afford to make any errors. I think her treatment of me comes from her intense love for her son. She seems unwilling to accept that he married me and moved away from her. This experience made me resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall, my mother-in-law found out. When I got home, she was waiting for me at the entrance, furious. How could you go out for fun when your husband isn't home? What about the household chores? I thought I needed a little break. A break? In this situation, all this trouble is because of your incompetence. After that encounter, I waited for a call from my husband. I hoped hearing his voice would lift my spirits, but what he said was far from comforting. I've got some bad news. My work in Texas isn't going well. I got into gambling, and now I'm in a tight spot financially. I've also accumulated quite a debt, my husband confessed over the phone. What? Are you serious? Gambling in debt? This is completely unexpected. What about our future and our daughters? I replied, shocked and worried. I'm sorry, really sorry. I feel stuck right now, but trust me, I'll figure something out, he pleaded. How? How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe? I'm working on a solution, was all he could say. I always believed my husband was sincere and wouldn't gamble. He was always dependable, never missing our dates. Even after we moved in together, he always came straight home from work and appreciated everything I did around the house. It was his honesty and sincerity that made me fall in love with him. But now, with him far away and my mother-in-law's constant criticism, my life felt unbearable. I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son, my mother-in-law's harsh words echoed in my mind. My heart sank deeper into despair as my husband continued working away from home. Constantly criticized and blamed by my mother-in-law, the weight of my husband's recent confession about his debts and gambling only added to my despair. With the barrage of criticism from her, I reached a breaking point. One night, overwhelmed, I left the house and found myself crying on a park bench. Then one day, my mother-in-law unearthed a secret from my past. During dinner, she used it against me. So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place. How did you find out about that? I was telling someone about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that nightclub job. In my past, frustrated with a mother who never worked and always partied, I left my family home. Struggling for money, I found work at a nightclub. This was before I married my husband, a secret I thought he didn't know. I was speechless. I never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this about my past, and now she was using it against me. I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild. I'll tell my son and have you kicked out. My despair deepened. Everything I had built with my husband, all my efforts, and the future I had hoped for seemed to crumble under her words. My husband's communication became scarce, and I fear he was beginning to doubt and suspect me. One night, alone in my room, I reflected on my life, meeting my husband, our marriage, our current situation, and the constant blame and accusations from my mother-in-law. I felt like I couldn't go on. I can't take it anymore. Whispering those words, I stepped out into the quiet nighttime streets, feeling the weight of despair inside me. My mother-in-law's harsh words echoed in my mind, criticizing my past, my secrets, and my present. Sitting alone on a park bench, I looked up at the sky, devoid of stars, feeling as dark inside as it was outside. Suddenly, someone approached. Mom, why are you here? It was my daughter, sitting down beside me and holding my hand. Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at your IT job, and you've overcome so much. You're strong. Thank you, but maybe Grandma is right. Mom, Grandma is stuck in the past. In today's world, any job you've done should make you proud. I'm proud that you worked at a nightclub. Really? Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us, no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you. My daughter's words touched me deeply, and tears welled up in my eyes. Mom, you're doing such a great job in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always support you, no matter what Grandma says. Gratitude flooded my heart. Her unwavering support gave me renewed strength and hope that we could face anything together. Later, in my husband's study, I took a deep breath before diving into a pile of paperwork. I meticulously went through each document, trying to unravel his secrets. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Gradually, my husband's financial situation began to reveal itself. Why did this happen? I discovered several receipts detailing gambling activities, horse racing, slot machines, and casino visits. The realization of how much money my husband had squandered was heartbreaking. Turning on his PC, I guessed the reverse version of his birthday as the password to access his email. Inside, I found numerous collection emails from financial institutions and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Additionally, his inbox was flooded with promotional emails from gambling websites. I decided to tally up the total amount my husband had spent on gambling. The staggering result was $3 million, far exceeding what I had anticipated. Seeing that figure, I felt a moment of panic, but I knew I had to act swiftly. I started planning how to secure funds to sustain our livelihood. This included tapping into my savings, estimating proceeds from selling our high-end electronics and luxury items at home, and budgeting with my salary savings. Every detail mattered in this critical moment. Afterward, I continued my personal investigation. Every day, I diligently contacted financial institutions to understand the extent of my husband's debts, obtaining credit reports in his name. A few days later, I formulated a plan. I started laying the groundwork to establish a life independent of my husband and mother-in-law, while also devising a strategy to repay his debts. Leveraging my expertise in the IT industry, I decided to pursue freelance projects. Over the next few days, I built a portfolio and signed up on a freelance job platform. Shortly after, I received my first request from a client. "This will help cover some of our living expenses," I thought gratefully. In between my daily work, I meticulously reviewed our household finances. I canceled unnecessary subscriptions, reduced wasteful spending, and researched budget-friendly recipes to cut down on food expenses. With insights from local moms, I organized a community yard sale, successfully selling branded items and extra electronics for a decent sum. As my freelance work gained momentum over the following weeks, I began to feel more secure about my income. By then, my bank account held enough to cover our essential living expenses. When I returned home one day, I noticed all of my mother-in-law's belongings were gone. At the same time, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law calling. "Oh, are you already home? Did you notice our stuff is gone?" My mother-in-law's voice came through the phone. "What are you trying to say?" I asked cautiously. "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. Once you divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes," she declared arrogantly. I couldn't help but chuckle. Actually, that $3 million is a debt. "Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt," she retorted confidently. "You might not believe it, but it's true. In his study, there are transaction records from banks and financial institutions, credit card bills, contracts, and more. Plus, on his PC, there are collection emails from financial institutions, messages from friends demanding repayment, and promotional emails from gambling sites. If you don't believe me, why don't you check?" "You're lying," she insisted. "It's the result of his deep involvement in gambling, horse racing, slot machines, casinos. In total, it amounts to a staggering $3 million. I've just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look." I had no idea, my mother-in-law admitted, her voice softening. "He probably didn't want you to know, but these are the facts. I've been figuring out how to handle this enormous debt, but I suppose I don't need to anymore." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I truly didn't know. I don't know what to say," she finally responded. Without another word, I ended the call. I knew I had to start afresh from this point onward. Despite the shock caused by my husband and mother-in-law's actions, I resolved to move forward for the sake of my daughter and myself. Later on, my husband called. "I'm so sorry. Truly, I am." My husband's voice came through, subdued in a way I had never heard before. But despite his apology, my anger burned unabated. "Why did it come to this? Our family is falling apart because of you," I retorted sharply. "I never thought it would come to this. But when I decided to go overseas with Mom, I couldn't see a future with you and our daughter," he explained, his words leaving me stunned. "You couldn't see? It's because of your recklessness and lack of planning that our family is in this mess," I accused bitterly. "I know that, but it's too late now. I made a promise to Mom," he replied. "A promise? What kind of promise sacrifices our daughter's future for your own paradise?" I challenged, feeling the weight of betrayal. There was a prolonged silence from my husband. "Did you ever truly love our family?" "I did, but now it's different." His voice broke, and I could hear him crying. "Please don't hurt us anymore. My daughter and I will live on our own from now on. We'll move on without you." He didn't respond. All I could hear was his sobbing from the other end. Calmly, I hung up the phone. The confusion started when my mother-in-law mistook a bill for $3 million as a winning lottery notice. Believing they had come into a windfall, she began planning their dream move overseas and convinced my husband to go along. Unaware of her misunderstanding and thinking a fresh start abroad would solve their financial woes, he agreed. Realizing it was a bill and not a lottery win, my anger towards my husband grew. I began searching for a lawyer, preparing for divorce, and seeking compensation for emotional distress and child support. A new chapter was about to begin, for me and my daughter, free from my husband and mother-in-law. I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce process, emotional distress claims, and securing child support. During this time, my daughter and I bonded deeply, and she became my strongest supporter. She fully understood my decision and chose to stand by me. Hearing her unwavering support made all the hardships with my husband and mother-in-law worthwhile, and tears of relief and gratitude flowed freely. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband struggled in their new life overseas. Despite their hopes for a fresh start, they encountered ongoing challenges due to inadequate preparation and financial troubles. Their situation worsened when they were pickpocketed and lost their remaining funds, compounded by language barriers. Eventually, they were deported for overstaying their visas. Later on, I negotiated the terms of the divorce through my lawyer. The divorce was finalized, and we agreed that my husband would pay emotional distress compensation and child support in a single lump sum. As my daughter and I embraced our new life, free from the turmoil of the past, I felt a sense of peace knowing we were moving forward together, stronger and more resilient than before. Thank you. Now I can finally start a new life, I expressed with relief. But all at once, wouldn't it be better in installments? The lawyer suggested. He's taken on even more debt, apparently borrowing money from some shady loan shark. I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, I don't care. After being evicted from her rental property and losing all her savings due to being pickpocketed, my mother-in-law found herself homeless upon her return to the U.S. Meanwhile, my daughter and I embarked on our new life. It wasn't without its challenges, but being free from the burden of my husband and mother-in-law allowed us to face the future with optimism. I am determined to live happily, working together with my daughter, who has been my beacon of hope through the dark